so we know everybody that's here. And yes, Tom Savini. We got Joe Pilato, of course, Rhodes.
Do I get to say something or not?
Yeah.
Welcome to 30 Shades of Decay. The only one who hasn't decayed is Miss Laurie Cardell.
Smoke and mirrors.
But it's George's next movie, 30 Shades of Decay, and it's about what happens to Laurie and Jarlath and Terry on the island and how they reproduce the world with Irish zebras.
And now Bub is in the house. Howard Sherman's in the house.
We have John Applis here with us today. Martin in the flesh, who actually has his own little figure now from Clay Guy out in the room. Yes, so stop by and get one. I already
did. My own action figure.
Yes, finally, after all these years.
Isn't that the truth?
Action.
Laurie Cardell, of course, already.
Chili Billy's daughter.
Yeah, and my sister's here, Maria Cardell.
Seriously, Laurie, you don't age. That kind of scares the shit out of me. I gotta be honest with you.
Thank you, but I really have. It's all under these moo-moos.
Well, it reminded me, it's like, this movie's not that, it's only, 30 years. So I'd let that shit sink in. But we have Terry Alexander. And his cohort, Mr. Jarlath Conroy. Remember him as Miguel, Mr. Anton DiLeo is here. And then we have, he's very shy, very quiet, reserved man, Mr. Gary Klar. And finally, but certainly not last, the ultimate preeminent zombie portrayal of all time, Mr. Howard Sherman. And arriving here, Mr. Phil Kellams. Hey, how are you, sir? So give it up for our Day of the Dead cast. So you kick it off here.
Starting at the end on the right, Mr. Sherman has a great story about seeing Day of the Dead theatrically and how a rowdy audience responded to his character. Would you like to share that story?
Yeah, sure. Is this on? Can you hear me? Yeah. I was, it was in the original release of the film. I lived in New York at the time, so this would have been in the late spring or early summer if it lasted into the summer. It didn't last long. Siskel and Ebert weren't kind, but what do they know? They're dead now. We're still Anyway, they, the hell with them, right? They're fucking dead. I was between auditions and I had some time to kill, and I was in Times Square, back when Times Square was a nasty place. And I had some time to kill. I was looking around for something to do, and I thought, there's my movie. I think I'll go watch my movie. And I went in, and Day of the Dead was playing, and I sat in the back of the house, and I started watching my movie. And at the end of the film, but you have to remember the kind of people that went to a movie in Times Square in 1985. It was a very specific kind of a crowd, and the kind of crowd that the movie was really designed for. And at the end of the movie, when Bub was chasing down Rhodes, the audience, somebody stood up and yelled, "Bub! Bub! Bub! Bub!" And they joined in, and suddenly the whole crowd was going, "Bub! Bub!" I was tempted to stand up and go, "I am Bub!" Resisted the urge. So you know, he should have run for political office.
I think he did. It was the Bush administration, wasn't it?
Okay, let's not go there.
All right.
There must be questions. There must be questions from you guys. Okay, well, thanks for coming.
I thought we were going down.
Yeah, we're gonna go down the line. I wanted just to ask Gary. You have so many memorable moments from that movie. Did you ever? Was there any improvisation that you came up with? Any particular line that you remember kind of just spilled out of you during any particular scene?
Well, I can project though. Stage trained.
Yeah, you got it.
Hold it really close. Yeah. You know, kind of a good story that I have, besides the fact that, you know, we've all worked and had careers. We've been very talented, lucky, whatever you want to say in a business. It can be very hard to say the least. But I have never, ever, with whatever I've done, stage, film, television, to me, this is like a fraternity, and I still talk to people here. We call, we know each other's families, and I really don't have that with any other film or anything I've ever really done, and it's kind of special. George and the whole crew here, which to me is wonderful, the first time ever.
Wasn't the question, did you improvise? Goddamn movie.
Here's two great stories. Okay, very quickly.
Savini's working for CNN right
Yes,
now.
he is. Yes, he is. Brian Williams is here to the left. Anyway, the hardest thing for me was to do. Everybody says, "Bang." Give me the line, "Bang, you're dead." And you know, it's written on the page, and I looked at this thing for weeks, figuring out when I'm going to shoot this. How do you do it? I mean, you got to make it. And it wasn't written any direction or anything like that, so I said, I spent weeks working on this in my own head and figuring out how to do it. And the only thing that worked for me was shoot. Rhodes says to me, shoot her, kill her, Laurie. And if you watch my character before I actually get up, I do the "bang, you're dead." But I go, "Bang, you're dead." I mime it. It's a joke to me, because this guy's a lunatic. He is the real crazy guy. He's the martinet. He's the little guy with the Napoleonic complex. So I go, "Bang, you're dead." And then, of course, the lunatic puts the gun to my head and says, starts the count, and if I don't kill Laurie, he's going to shoot me. And thank God for Terry Alexander, who simmered it all down, and I was able to go on and not have to deal with this lunatic until the end, when he screwed us all and got in a golf cart. Because the only real soldier was Steve, and everybody knows that. Thank you very much.
We should point out Tasso's in the house now. So
Tarakis is in the house. No one lost its head quite like him. He was.
Tim knew, right?
Yeah, I wanted to ask. I mean, you have your character has some emotional troubles in the film, to say the least. I was wondering, how difficult was it to stay in that headspace all that time? Because your character never even smiles once during the entire film. I mean, you're just miserable from moment to end. That had to be really challenging for you.
No, I'm pretty much, crazy anyway. So it's very easy. I don't know, it's all day, all night Marianne, Let's be crazy and see what happens. I don't know. That's about all. I don't have big stories.
Cool.
What are we doing here?
Charlie, we're going down the line.
Try again, Mike. Try
Okay.
again.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, for Jarlath, I wanted to ask, what was in the flask? Was there ever anything, was it, how much, I mean, obviously you would have to fake most of it, but did you ever just partake for real?
No. And I regret it. To this day.
I'll buy you Jameson tonight on me.
Okay.
for Terry Alexander, how about the accent? How did we start the accent?
Oh, I knew that before I got there, actually, but I had to look over the monologue, man, because it was beautiful. So I asked George to give me an overnight with it, and I slept with it and dreamed about it and came back and kicked it, so he liked it, and we moved on from there, man. But
Did the script say you had a Jamaican accent?
yeah, George wanted that.
Yeah,
man.
okay.
So that's what I did.
Very good.
It worked out a lot better for you than that creature in that Star Wars movie.
I don't know what he was doing. I don't know what that accent was.
George,
Now, given who your father was, you were actually at the original Night of the Living Dead premiere, isn't that right?
What? I was, yeah.
no, Laura.
Not Terry. Yeah.
Did you mention a name when you asked the question?
Terry had a sex change operation.
Yeah, my dad was Chilly Billy in Pittsburgh. He had a horror show, and George actually at the Land of the Dead premiere credited my dad with his career because when he played the announcer in that, and he was he had the show called Chiller Theater, and he would always plug the movie, plug it, and talk about it, and it's hard. It's not like now where you can get all kinds of publicity, so it's really a family affair. It is really a family affair. I mean, we're all really close friends, but I did go to the original Night of the Living Dead opening. What I remember is a big limo came and picked us up, and I hated to be frightened as a kid. I hated my dad's show. I hated horror movies, and in fact, my boyfriend, we'd make out, and Chiller would be on, and I would know when it was time for him to leave, because Dad was just getting off the air. It was like 20 minutes.
Hey, get out! Wow.
Gotta wrap it up.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, right. Daddy, come on. No, but I remember, so I basically was so freaked out. I spent most of the time with the popcorn machine in the back, I was terrified. I sat at the end, I kept popping back. Anyway, but I've come to love the genre, of course. And my dad, Chilly Billy.
Are you aware of Chiller Theater, Bill Cardell?
Yeah.
People watch.
This crowd better be aware of Chiller Theater.
Chilly Billy is my friend. Chiller Theater is the end. Come now and follow me.
Does anybody have one of those straps with a ball in it?
Well, that was the theme song.
Tom, we're not interested in what you do after this.
Yes.
Silence works.
So, John, I wanted to ask you about you worked on a lot of George's movies and you never made it out of any of them alive. And actually in Creepshow you started off dead to begin with. So,
That is true.
So I was wondering, what was it like, what was your most vivid memory from Day of the Dead?
Getting shot in the head, I think, was a fairly. I'm sure these guys have stories about that.
I shot you in the head.
Yeah.
But you shot him, but I pulled the trigger.
Well,
You blew the squib shot.
it will be
Wait, no,
discussed.
Joe has a good story. about that.
All right, we're going to get to that.
It's John.
We're not trying to shut you down.
No, Stone Phillips. It's John.
I never got hurt. No, I never got hurt. It didn't hurt, by the way. I knew you were upset, though. You were upset with the shot.
There wasn't enough light to see the entrance and exit wounds.
Right. I thought, too, it was about you wanted me to fall forward as opposed to off left.
No, I think your reaction was great.
No, but
I couldn't see the. But Joe.
I know. I busted the shot.
Watch yourself. I mean, really, watch yourself.
Tell him what happened, really, because he doesn't remember.
I don't remember.
He doesn't fucking remember.
Well, maybe he doesn't remember.
I don't remember anything.
The condom blew into my eye.
No.
Joe got hit.
He busted the shot. They were pissed because they had to clean him up.
Part of your brain shot him in the eye. Okay.
I talked about that. Sorry.
That could happen.
It did.
The one thing I do want to say is that this is really a terrific thing that's happened here. To have all of us together as a reunion. I mean, it's kind of the first time, right? Isn't it? Yeah. This many people from Day of the Dead. 30 years? It's 30 years.
Only in Simple Wasteland can that happen.
30 years. And I really, show all appreciation to Ken and Pam for making this happen. I've been to Cinema Wasteland 3 times, I think, and this is the best convention I've ever attended. The very best. So yeah, you guys deserve a big round of applause. You're the best. And so I'll shut up from this point on.
So Tasso, you have an incredible scene where your head literally gets pulled off.
Yeah.
How difficult was that to film?
It was 3 hours of torture for me. And you know, I don't know how many people were actually working on us. 10, 12 people. Eileen Seif was there, of course, doing all her makeup, and Tom, I don't know, how big was your crew at the time?
I think Greg Nicotero was
Greg was
pumping
the hands
in your eyeballs?
In my eyeballs, because the cables were going up his sleeve. And was that you working the cables?
I forget what
Everett was working. There were 2 or 3
somebody
people
had his
working the
eyes in
cable.
the,
Because the head is mechanical, so you can see it working. It's a puppet. Well, the cables are going up Greg's hands and with the fingers in the eyes, obviously, so you can't see them. Well, me, it is my real chest and my real hands and the rest of me. Well, my bust, shoulders, and head and neck, I'm upside down on my back, upside down in the fake palette. Of course, I'm giving away the magic trick. It came apart and went back together, so the top part of me is hanging while the prosthetic is glued here from here up. So I'm upside down for 3 hours, and of course when the effect goes off, I don't know how many gallons of blood, well, it all went up my nose. And I'm choking and gagging. It took another half hour to get me out of it.
And wasn't that sticky?
Oh, it's nasty. Oh, yeah, thick, sticky blood.
You know what the sad thing is? Everybody in this room would jump into place to do that exact same thing.
Dark, of course, upside down in the dark. Couldn't see. I don't know. People were poking me too. There was a lot of poking going on.
I'm sorry.
Right.
So Joe, talk.
No problem. But you were asking for it now. First of all, I have to say I love Tasso's bust. Cinema Wasteland, the only people that have put this together in 30 years. You're wonderful.
Yeah.
You're wonderful. Buy a great book about the movie written by Klar.
Yeah, Lee.
Lee, stand up.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lee Klar's in the house.
All right, I'll be brief because Tom will interrupt me. Shakespeare once said, "We are such stuff as dreams are made of." And 30 years ago, we were part of George's dream. The only audience we had was the crew and the camera. And then, when the film was released, we turned it over to you. And you became part of We Are Such Stuff as Dreams Are Made Of. And we are all amazed that 30 years we have an extended family. That is an unbelievable privilege and joy in life. So thank you all.
You're right. He's quite brilliant. he's been singing your praises all.
I know.
I sit next to him. I wanted to.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Anything for you.
That's it? That's all you got to say?
It's your turn, Tom.
No, this is like a Star Trek convention almost.
All right.
There's a bub sitting here. There's people dressed up like the characters.
Let's go.
But Tasso didn't say that his head was bent so far back for 3 hours. It really was torture. And the other guy that suffered that was Barry Gress, the guy on the table with no head except a brain lying there. Barry was like, "Tom, can I be in a movie?" "Yeah, I got a part for you." And he also drowned under the blood that came in.
I sat in a hole for 5 fucking hours and you don't even bring that up?
Well, let me bring that up. The guts that we used on Joe had been, they were in a refrigerator while we went to Florida to shoot the Florida stuff. Somebody unplugged the refrigerator. So when we came back 2.5, 3 weeks later, the guts were rancid. I mean, you can't believe the hideous smell. Tasso had wax up his nose because he tore Joe apart. You know, Joe couldn't wear any protection. So he could not be protected from the hideous smell because you would see, you know, cotton. The camera was like right up his face. So he was trapped under the floor and suffered with those guts all over him, rancid, smelly. You know, I have video. It looks like you're going to heave.
I've got a lawsuit. I did heave. I got a lawsuit with OSHA now, and Tasso and I have to sue because we all have pig brain damage.
I've seen 3 separate interviews with you, Joe, over the course of 20 years. And whenever that scene comes up, you always turn to the camera and just go, fucking Savini.
Well, Lieutenant Columbo, I think that it was Savini that unplugged the refrigerator.
So, Phil, I wanted to ask Phil, your scene is very memorable because you get your throat torn out and you asked to be shot in the head, so you had a lot of effects work to do there. I was curious about your memories of shooting that particular scene.
Well, basically, I mean, 30 years ago, I died with a certain amount of flair and class. One of the reasons I was able to do that is primarily because of the gentleman sitting to my right.
Joe Pilato?
Right.
No. Right. But he also said gentleman, so I didn't.
Oh, yes.
And
Thank you, Phil.
It's remarkable for me to be able to come back like this after 30 years and be able to sit at a table with all these folks again and all the memories that come back and all the deep feelings that you have for people. There's been a lot of what I've done where I haven't exactly been in front of everybody. I've sort of hidden out. But to have a weekend like this, where I've been able to spend some serious time with the people up here, has meant an awful lot to me. God bless them, God love them.
We're going to open it up to the crowd to ask questions. That's me. Hold on. It's
And
G. Howard Klar here. Hold on. Guys, please. Michael, guys, hold on. One thing, I know they would be here. There are 2 people I know who would absolutely be here, who were wonderful in the film. I know Howard had to work with Richard Liberty, who played Logan, who is gone. And a guy I met who was from New York, like I was, and made a great friendship with him on the film, which we carried. You see it in the film, but it actually carried over into real life, was Ralph Romero. And I know they would be here. I give it up to them. They love you, you love them. For Ralph and Richard.
And can we take a brief moment to remember the first zombie that walked out of the graveyard, Bill Heitzman, dismissed.
Any questions?
Who was the biggest prankster of the group?
Savini. I'm sorry.
I have to say that we love to blow people up. We would set up explosions. We would set up real explosions in my studio, wait for the producer to come in, and we would set up by the door when he came in. But when he left, before he left, we would blow him up at the door. But he got us back real bad. He hooked up with the special effects, mechanical effects people, and rigged our car. We all used to go home in a big deathmobile station wagon. He rigged it so smoke would come out from under the dashboard. And we were screaming that we were going to die, crawling out of the car, and when we got out of the car, the whole crew was laughing at us.
There's a picture, and I don't know where it is. When they stuck me in the hole in the ground, the special effects guys put a toilet bowl seat on the hole, and then I put it around my neck, and I'm in long johns, and I went into the hole. I don't know where the picture went, but it was up to these rascals.
Another question.
Yeah, this question's for Tom Savini.
Yeah.
How long, on the average, does it take to do a zombie painting before shooting this?
A zombie makeup?
Yeah.
Well, you know, we had to do fast. You know, we had days where there were 375 zombies, sometimes more. We had 200 zombie masks that people in the background would wear. Then the costume department made up a whole bunch of zombies, and then me and my crew of 8 people did the physical, bleeding, kind of, you know, messed up zombies. Yeah, the close-ups. However, every time the press came to the set, the guys in the mask crowded around George. So every picture of George from Dawn of the Day of the Dead, he's surrounded by these awful, horrible masks that don't look good at all, you know. But we had to do them fast. I'd say 20 minutes. If you walked in, we would look at your size. Okay, here's your teeth. These appliances will work. We would slap them on, do the paint, put alginate in the teeth so they would stay in your mouth all day. And quick, maybe 20 minutes each.
There were trays, Tom and his crew, there were trays of random appliances, scars, eyes, stuff. You just pick it out of a tray and glue it on you.
Tasso, how did you differentiate between the rotten guts and the beef jerky when you ate me?
Oh, no. He picked them up and put them on his cheek.
Oh, all right. I didn't know you cheated. All right.
I knew exactly.
All right.
Next question is for. This is getting really there we go. This question is for Lori, Terry, and Jarlath. In your mind, what do you think happened on the island? I mean, other than the obvious, but how did things go in the future of the New World?
That's an essay question.
Irish zebras.
Let's ask some. Wait. Is this working?
Yeah.
No, it's not really. Here we go. Why don't we ask somebody to write that, and then we'll know. I think it would be fun to pick up where the characters left off.
Yeah.
And, or not where they left off, but how old they are, and just see what happened to them. It would be fun. I think it would be fun to play it realistically in that they're really broken down physically, and I mean, I think that would be a fun thing to do. So write it. No.
Day of the senior citizen.
Yeah, right. It would be great. No, I don't.
Geezers of the dead.
Well, there was probably lots of sex and then. I don't know. What do you think?
Lots of sex, yeah.
And we ended up with a multicultural population.
Yeah.
No problem. Hey there. Over here. Far wall. Other side. There we go. Hey. More just a comment and stuff like that. I'm a diehard Day of the Dead fan. I think most people here have seen the movie countless times. I traveled from Montreal just to meet you. That's it. So it's super special for me to be here and get to you all, which I will do. But having just watched the film just now in the other room, coming back in here and sorry, the wireless. So coming back here after seeing the film and seeing you guys in person is actually a really cool thing to see, because you know you forget sometimes the nuances of performances and things like that and how the movie plays out. When I've done that and I've seen this, I mean, you guys killed it. Like your acting performance in this movie is one of the best acted films, not of horror but of anything. And I think that my favorite scenes are a couple of sort of understated ones, like Lori and Terry, when you were in that little oasis you built for yourself and you had this speech where you're talking about why you're not partaking in this stuff. That bit between you two is just one of the best pieces of acting. I think it's just fantastic. And I think there's moments like that for everybody in the movie. I mean, like Rhodes, every single thing that you're on screen, you just kill it. Like, you're the most intimidating, coolest performance of a character. And at the end of it, you stay hardcore when all these other guys are chickening out and shooting themselves. You're screaming at the guy to choke on the guts. So
I don't think it was guns. They went in a golf cart.
George gave me a direction and he said, eat as much scenery as you possibly can.
It's amazing. Everyone has that part of it, and every single person has a bit like that. And it's just, I think you appreciate it 10 times more having just come out of there and seen it. I mean, like, Gary Sherman, like, that bub is just, you have more heart and feeling in that undead character than most people do on screen alive. You know, it's quite fantastic. By the way, I wanted to point out, there's a guy here, he's dressed as Dr. Logan. You're a dead ringer for him. And it's actually kind of scary because you walk by, it's like, I know he's dead. Holy crap, so congratulations, you nailed it.
I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein, and I want to know what the fuck you're doing with my time.
I actually had one last comment for Lori. One last thing. I think in George Romero's films, he's always casting super important roles like Dwayne Jones, like Terry, like yourself, and it's a lot of like, the black leads or the women leads, and there's stuff that are doing so much more than anything did at that time. I think that your performance as Lori, it's incredible. I think it's not only is it one of the best female roles ever made, I think it's one of the best roles. Period. Just that good. Great job. Great job.
It's funny, I sometimes you read the reviews as the worst acting ever. And actually there's a GIF, is it a GIF or a GIF that you call it? What is it? It repeats itself? Yeah. There's one, I saw it was me with the hands, and of course it stops right there. It said, the worst acting in the world. Boo!
Yeah.
No, but I actually, I have to say, they entered it into film festivals at the time, and I'm just telling you because I don't usually tell people this, but I did win the best actress in the Cinéma du Fantastique in France and the Sitges Film Festival.
And Siskel and Ebert, 20 years later, did turn around, and they said they made a mistake.
Yes, sir. Fuck you, sir.
I just wanted to say that Lori plays a character of a female heroine, a woman that was strong, a woman that was courageous, not a scream queen. I have nothing against scream queens. They were lovely. But Lori played a character for a female, first female in horror, as far as I'm concerned, that was strong and intelligent and took charge.
Can I say something about Lauren? The scene where all the zombie arms come through and grab her, that surprise her, they couldn't see what they were grabbing. So we said to all of them, just don't grab her breast. But somebody is grabbing her breast, and it's your boyfriend, right? Or your husband. Your husband. So when you see the movie, the guy grabbed, I think he purposely was doing that.
He was protecting it.
What about the other one?
Next question. We got that question.
Right here.
Oh, okay. Right, you spent that. Oh, okay.
There is a chemistry between all of you, and that becomes obvious in the film between all of you, and it's absolutely wonderful. It's just a beautiful thing. And this is for all of you. What is your favorite memory that you all took away from this film working together?
We were in a mine. I remember I enjoyed the hell out of grabbing one of the golf carts and finding where Tasso was to run him over. There's actually footprints on the ceiling when Tasso did a handstand on the cart and walked across the ceiling behind it to get away from me.
The chemistry that you speak of was created by claustrophobia. Okay. But it was great because we, 12, 14 hours a day, all we had time to do, nobody had like a Winnebago or this, we were like there. My best memories are after 14, 15 hours sitting down and having a beer at the bar.
Many good memories.
George uses a lot of the same people over and over again, so we all work together on other films together with George.
I didn't.
So every time. Except for Lori.
But the crew was...
so it wasn't just the cast, but the whole crew. Backstage, we all, 75% of us all knew each other from previous movies.
Thus the Pittsburgh film family.
Well, the deal is that that's what Mr. Romero was able to do. I mean, he created a repertory company over a course of about 10, 15 years.
Yep.
And we've all known each other prior to, in many cases, and certainly 30 years after the fact. We're all still friends. A Romero shoot is a family shoot. It always has been, it always will be. From the very beginning, from Night of the Living Dead. Everybody in that film that's still around, we still see each other, we still keep in touch. I mean, it's an amazing thing that George was able to pick and choose and find people that have become family.
That's what I noticed about being the newcomer, that everybody was on their game. I mean, cinematography, the special effects, sound people, and sound is very important to a movie because all these actors know that if the sound isn't good, you have to get in there and do looping. And looping is very difficult for actors to do because when the sound isn't good, you have to go there later on, you're doing a whole nother character, you gotta come back to what you're doing, and you stand in a room with a mic in your hand, and the line comes up and it says beep, 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 do your line. And that is some difficult stuff, so everybody was on their game, and I really appreciated that from everybody.
And how about a round of applause for John Amplis's performance in Martin?
And Joe Pilato's in effects.
Yes, very underrated.
We need to hear from this side of the table.
Yeah.
Phil
actually has something.
I think George had a tendency of finding people in really off-center ways and places. He found me in a theater in West LA when I was living out there in Venice. And he's the one that came up to me and said, I really want to talk to you about something. And I didn't know George Romero at that point from Adam. And I said, what the hell do you want to talk to me about? Thinking that it was something that he'd just seen me do. And he said, I really want to talk to you about something that if necessary, I'll buy you a beer. Let's go for it, big boy. Buy me a beer. That's how I met George Romero, and ultimately, that's how I met this cast. So, it was remarkable to me. And I'm not acting as much as I'm writing, but it was a true experience. And it's lasted me 30 years, and I'm sure it's lasted the rest of this cast just about the same amount of time, no matter what they tell you. It was a pleasure, and it was a gift. Thank you very much, George.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. In being a very self-judgmental person, coming from my background, I was struck by the lack of that kind of judgment taking place on the set and during the whole shoot. And it actually allowed one to learn some things and develop things. It was a great sense of generosity. I think that's what I took away from it, apart from the freezing the mind.
My best experience was coming into the lunchroom and seeing all these zombies eating ribs. And I was really glad I had just turned vegetarian. And of course, you guys, nothing ever happened to me in the film. Here you go, Gareth. What's your mother? Please don't get sad, Mom.
I want to address the gentleman from Montreal.
I'm from Ottawa, but
No, that's what we talked. We talked.
Totally, yeah.
Great people. I just wanted to share one thing about this. it's nice to work with a director who allows you to collaborate, because some of them don't. And with George, for instance, the way my death scene was written, to me, it didn't work. It didn't work for me. It didn't really capture the essence of Steel. Now, I know we joke about this, but I played Steel as the ultimate soldier. You have to be a bit crazy with what's going on. There's the lunatic, to me, was Rhodes. But when it came to my death scene, I said to George, this is so wrong. Steel cannot die like this. He said, okay, let's, which I really appreciate. He said, give me your idea. So what I did is Steel, as Rickles says, when they're coming down, yellow, that's how the Spics say yellow. Steel, you can fix anything, you can do it. I can't. The Spic ripped the guts out of it, okay? And then I run through the mine, give myself a tremendous Charlie horse, which Joe actually saw when I dropped my pants, and go into the room, take out every zombie I can, and to kind of your, take on it, this is what I talked over with George. Why did I kill myself? Who hated zombies more than anybody? And you knew it vocally. He hated them. He taunted them. It was Steel. And I worked this out with George, and I thought, in the Catholic Church, it's a mortal sin to commit suicide. And Steel makes the sign of the cross.
And he's behind crosses. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And then I blow my brains out, knowing, as George and I discussed, that Steel believes all the rowdiness, all the nonsense, all the craziness, all this insanity going on in this mind, in this world, that he believed that his God would forgive him, because the ultimate hell, okay, was to become a zombie. Living hell on earth. And he made the sign of the cross and took himself out of it. Saved the bullet. While his master, Captain Rhodes, screws us all and gets in a golf cart. So it was actually the perfect segue. I had to wait a while to get that in. But listen, it was a great group of people. It really has amazed me 30 years on. And by the way, as I've said, we've all worked in all kinds of mediums. There's all good people up here.
He doesn't like
This is the only movie that ever gave my career validity to my children. Jeez, Dad. Wow, people really know who you are. Didn't matter you did Broadway, off. My kids were young then anyway. But they started watching this movie and they're 5 or 6 years old. And my wife would say, don't let them watch that. I'd say, why? It's a movie. But to George allowing, I think, all of us, Terry alluded to this, and Jarlath, how he gave us the courage to create, Rollo May, the courage to create. And I've always applauded him for that, because I've worked for frankly, some directors, they're pricks.
Hey, I thought I screwed you because Steel was Polish.
You just found out, huh?
I do want to say one quick thing. When actors work together, personally, I love working as an ensemble, not being singled out as and this was a true ensemble. I think there's so much more power individually as actors to work as an ensemble, because you feel the power of the group rather than just being the solo whatever. Yep. And that when Jarlath was talking about the generosity, a lot of times on sets, people don't stick around and do your line next to the camera. They're gone. So basically you're acting to nothing. But all of us stood by each other and stayed on set, and that carried over. We're very fortunate, And I do want to say about Greg Nicotero, he really wanted to be here today. But he's busy.
Just a little bit.
Bob.
Questions?
Right here.
Yeah, right here in front.
Wait,
Oh, a memory? I get, it's funny because I largely was sort of isolated from the cast, but I felt that was simply because all around my eye holes, and all around my nostrils, and all around my mouth, and my hands that were painted. Every time they yelled cut, 2 guys descended on me and tried to repair the damage because it was constantly decaying.
No, we just didn't like you.
And I mean, besides that, zombies aren't really very smart. I couldn't follow their conversation. But I think kind of the most oddly, it's sort of magical in a way, but just it kind of just bizarre. One of the most bizarre moments of my entire life was the first time my makeup was completely assembled and camera ready, and I stood in front of a mirror and saw my own eyes looking back from that image and started moving my face around. And the most astonishing, it's hard to describe, but everybody looks in a mirror and you know from a very early age that's yourself, and there's some kind of very specific brain space that gets turned on when you look back and you see yourself. And to look in the mirror and see myself and see that, and have, as I move my face around it, all looked so real, was just one of the eeriest things. And I have to commend Mr. Savini and Greg Nicotero and the team of people that created that face. It was just so astonishingly, it acted like real dead flesh. So it was, that was...
We actually used real dead flesh.
Thank you.
It wasn't just the mask, though, Howard. In the middle of all this other great movie, with all the other chaos and fun and craziness that was going on in Day of the Dead, here in the center of this movie, there's a whole new Frankenstein was invented. I mean, the whole Bub for President thing, how did that come about? Crying out loud, because people, they saw something alive in that character.
Yeah, the alive thing, I think, was a transcendence by that particular actor that that really made that undead creature innocent, intelligent, and needing taken care of, and wanting to learn. It was the transcendence of the actor that made that take place.
You created zombie Jesus, essentially.
Wasn't resurrection?
We have a question here in the front from someone.
Laurie, we met a few years ago back in Rosemont, Illinois, and I got your book, I'm Gonna Tell. You're a survivor, not just on the screen. Got a lot of respect for that. Have you written anything else since then?
He's referring to a book I wrote called I'm Gonna Tell, and it has to do with childhood sexual abuse. I had been a victim, not of my dad, but uncle anyway. It's a long story, but they use it in universities to show how the mind remembers and what it goes through. And they use that book. But I've written recently, I have a writing partner who's a playwright. We just wrote a screenplay. It's either Top of the Bottom or going to be called Chiller Theater. We don't know yet. We have it registered as both. But it juxtaposes the industry of horror against the real life horror. And we've been working on it for 3 years. And it's coming up. I actually sent it to Greg, who wanted to read it, and other people in the industry, just to get feedback. And it will get made. Even if I have to make it on my camera, it will get made. So it'll be my gift to everybody, for my dad especially. The other thing that I found out, my sister handed me this note. I just found out like 2 weeks ago that Bridget Nielsen did my voice in the German translation. That's like a new tidbit. Thank you.
We have a question back over here.
Yeah, I was just wondering, some movies came out in the 80s that started to have a lot of profanity and racial slurs, like Scarface, for example. And I was just wondering, did you guys get a lot of flack for all the profanity and racial slurs in Day of the Dead?
Racial slurs? There were?
Yeah, unfortunately I called Terry a jungle bunny. That was a very difficult line to deliver at that time because it was the profanity I had no fucking problem with. But, that was a very hard line for me to deliver, and I don't know how, but it was a weird line at the time. And as I said, yeah, it was strange. Sorry, Terry.
All right.
It was in the script.
Yeah, I got that part.
And I'm gonna...
I see you, Chocolate Man.
When Dawn first came out, Dawn wasn't even rated, was it? Was it rated X?
Dawn.
Dawn.
Dawn
Wasn't rated. They didn't know what to do with it.
Right. They said nobody under 17 allowed, but it wasn't rated. It was unrated. That guy.
I actually have two questions. I actually read the script before I saw Day of the Dead. How much?
Which script?
The one where they had the zombie and
color-coded zombies.
Yeah, the one where they had the zombies filled with dynamite.
The expensive script.
Yeah. How did that script transition to the final product? And then on a side note, Tom, why did you check your blood pressure while in Dawn of the Dead?
That's not
Tom.
That's
Tony.
not
Tony
me.
Booba. Tony or Pat Booba.
Everybody asks me that. That's not me. I look nothing like him.
It was Tony.
But the second part of your question, though, I mean, that George had to keep cutting the script every time the budget got cut. I mean, that original script was Raiders of the Lost Ark with zombies.
Fantastic.
But what you saw is what George finally had to settle because of the budget.
And as I said earlier, that compression that he brilliantly made from going from a huge budget to the claustrophobic world added, actually, I think it would not be as memorable a film had it been the big budget version as what he did with that low budget cut.
Do we have another question in the back here?
There's this guy right here.
Oh, we have a...
We'll get you in a second, okay? Go ahead.
I got two things. One, to kind of go with what he said about the profanity. I'd like to thank this film for giving us a fun drinking game of taking a drink every time the word fuck is said. And then taking a shot.
That can kill people, sir. It's not.
That's good.
Then taking a shot every time Jesus, Mary, and Joseph is said.
That could kill people, sir. Don't do that.
You just gotta be able to handle your shit.
I'll see you at the bar later. Fuck, 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 fuck.
I'll see you there. My actual question is to go back to the crew or the cast members that are no longer here. Is there any fond memories or good stories that anybody has of those fine gentlemen?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to go back to Bill Heitzman for a second, even though he was not part of it. Every Saturday at a convention, I did about 10. He'd get up, he'd put on a white face, he'd put on the Undertaker split jacket suit, and he'd come down. And he was just a remarkable gentleman, as was Richard Liberty, and of course the late Ralph Romero.
After my first day of shooting, which was the scene with the telephone and the razor and the gun and all of that in the laboratory, George came up to me and he said, "I'd like to see this character more in the movie, so if you have any ideas, suggest them to me." And in those days I was running to keep in shape, and the only thing that made running possible for me was having a Walkman, which had sort of recently been invented back then. And one day I was coming in from a run, and I thought, what would Bob make of music? As I had the earphones on my head, and I suggested that scene to George. And he said, great, we'll do something in the scene before I think the original script, it was just, he came up and gave me a bucket of meat, but the idea of having, but we didn't really have a specific idea because it hadn't been scripted, and I had just said Bub in earphones, and it's kind of fast-paced on a film shoot. It's costing thousands of dollars an hour, so we kind of were ready to shoot before we really had figured out what the scene was, and we kind of worked out a thing that he was going to show me how to turn the tape recorder on. Well, the thing with Richard is he was a man with very quick energy. He talked fast, he moved fast, he thought fast, and so the first time we tried it, he went, and it was like, and because it wasn't scripted, and we were all, none of us, including George, really knew, we were making it up virtually on camera. And there's a protocol among actors, is actors don't direct other actors. It's like it'll turn into chaos if you do that, in fist fights. So I was a little hesitant to say, Richard, you gotta slow way down. I'm a zombie, I can't follow that fast, I'm not very bright. And I think I kind of politely suggested that. And he went, oh yeah. So, and it was still like 5 times too fast for me. And I just couldn't say it again. And George was, it seemed like he wasn't even privy to these conversations. He was, I don't know, dealing with other stuff. Anyway, there's this old strategy among actors, which is rather than direct the other actor, just play the absolute truth of your own character, no matter what. And just do that. And that's what I did in that moment. The next time we tried it, he did it too fast again, and I just looked at it. And I made him teach me how to turn that tape recorder on. And finally, about the 3rd or 4th take, he really made sure that I followed his finger all the way down, and then it all worked. So, and then afterwards he was like, I get it, yeah.
So we have our final question will be right here in the middle.
Okay, this is for everybody. What's everybody doing now compared to 30 years back? What are you guys doing? Any future projects, any works, or like, this isn't a now question.
So what are you up to now, basically? What's going on?
I just finished the low-budget graphic novel called The Chair, and then coming up in the spring is supposed to be the release of Night of the Living Dead Origins for Simon West Productions. And without you, we would be 2-dimensional figures on celluloid. With you, we're blood and warm.
Hey, just real quick, do us all a favor when we're all done, please, and just stay where you are and let us walk past you and get out, because we'll never get out of here otherwise. So just stay where you are when this is over, please, and let us go. I might direct Nightmare City. I have a picture coffee table book coming out and a documentary on my work called Smoke and Mirrors.
Phil, what about you?
Primarily theater and writing. I'm actually trying to do a genre in writing that I'm not used to. I'm not sure I'm very good at it, but I am trying to write poetry, along with screenplays and specific characters that are relatively universal in different settings. So that's what I'm doing now.
Awesome.
I've got a beautiful 300-acre farm in West Virginia, and my lady and I may try to start our own Renaissance festival.
On a zombie Renaissance festival.
I'm still, I've been all along been working in theater, and I teach acting and directing for Point Park University, and I've been doing that for 33 years, and probably retire there, and I'm still make little films and do a lot of directing now for theater.
Cool.
And, besides what I wrote, the screenplay, I've executive produced a couple of short films, and I'm also I don't know. What I try to do in life is just, the next right thing. I did a lot of volunteer for hospice, and that's been very important to me. And I also try to just speak up against, to talk about child abuse for younger, to help anybody that calls me, basically. And whenever I'm needed, I show up for that.
Last year, Joe and I shot a little teaser on a movie entitled Inhaled. And it's a zombie flick, and hopefully we can get the funding to finish the movie.
Yeah, well, I just do what I always do, looking for work. Theater, and most recently I had an episode of The Nick. I don't know if you've seen that. It may not be outside New York, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I like to commit random acts of kindness. And I'd also love to do another horror movie. Yeah.
Lori's casting one.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I agree with Jorlith. I just try to be a splendid human being. I'm teasing. I'm sure I didn't really need to add that. But, to spread the idea of peace and love and existing in a world where we can do positive things and not hurt each other but love each other. Yep. And as far as what I'm doing, it's none of your fucking business.
On February 16th of 2001, with Stone Phillips doing the hosting, they did my life story on Dateline NBC, because at the age of 55, I found out that I was sold on the streets of Bridgeport, Connecticut, and found out I was really one of 17 children, and I never knew it. Because most adopted children know when they're adopted. They should be told. And believe it or not, to this day, when my story aired for the full hour, and it went worldwide, probably 10 times already, pretty hard to find out in some ways that not that you're a different person, but your medical history and your health history is based on your mom, your dad, your grandparents. And a lot of people wanted me to be, because it was such a powerful story. It is probably, I would say, in the realm of the world of adoption, which is still very controversial. There's lots of roads you can go down with this. And I spoke in front of the legislature in Maryland. They brought me down, and people wanted me to be the poster boy. Well, my story is so bizarre, you can't even invent it. No screenwriter in Hollywood could invent it. Your best friend for your whole life turns out to be your real brother. We all had different last names, different religions. But they all knew they were adopted. I never knew. A girl I dated, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, turned out to be my real sister. And live on that, I didn't know. I mean, because the problem they did is they sold us all with a 10-mile radius of where we were all born. Instead of sending a kid to Seattle, one to Washington, D.C., one to Miami. And my wife has the best line on the show. And she says, it's a good thing you didn't marry her. And Stone goes, well, why? And my lovely wife, Carolyn, goes, because you would have had squirrels for children. So it really is. It's really more bizarre. It's really out there. I'm working, and believe me, to Phil, Lori knows this, because Lori's story's great. I always told her that, and she needs to even do more with it, because I think it's got many things to teach people. But adoption is still controversial. Yeah. I'm not out there being some kind of a politician for it, but I know the pitfalls. I know what can happen. To this day, out of 50 states, when my story aired, you can only get your records in 2, Kansas and Alaska. There's now maybe 8. So there's 42 states where you want to find out who your birth parents were, or if you want to reverse it and be a parent, find out your kid. You're going to run up some pretty profound problems. So I'm working on a book, a movie, and the one-man show. I've got, my wife she can't wait for me to get done with one of these things. And, I like to think I write well, but each one of those is kind of a different way of writing. I've taken meetings with major publishers in New York. I've also had calls from the West Coast. They want to give me a check. I don't like it. They want to wave bye-bye. I don't ever want my children to see my life on screen and say, or have me say, whose story is that? I want to control my life. I'm a control freak, and I'm 68. How many years I got left on this planet? So I think I wanted to do the book first, and then maybe, you know, we would deal with movie rights or something like that. I think the easiest thing for me to do, believe it or not, because it's pretty easy for me to talk about, I did not put the gun to my head. My dad, who raised me, was my real father, not the two people who sold all of us. And kind of strange people in a way, as I've learned a little bit about them. There's a lot I'll never know, because everybody was dead. And I have family out there, half of them are trying to sue me, and these are my blood brothers and sisters. And we'll get it done. But I think the easier thing for me is probably going to be to do the one-man show first. So that's what I'm doing. Piece of cake.
I live in New York now, and I continue to do what I've been doing for the last 45-ish years, I guess. Trying to trick actors or producers and directors into giving me a job. And just appeared on Madam Secretary the other night. I was giving the stars a hard time. And other than that, I collect my pensions and show up at zombie conventions.
Ladies and gentlemen, today is
We take a quick picture. Thank you. Thank you.